The Albanese government keeps telling us nuclear power is no good and it must stay banned. But Japan is now close to reopening the world's biggest nuclear plant with 3 reactors there. This was among many Japanese plants that were closed after the Fukushima scare in 2011. And back then, the Fukushima plant, as you might remember, was hit by an earthquake and then by a tsunami, and then there was some leak of radiation. But not a single person died of nuclear contamination then or since, not one. Now, that news would probably amaze opponents of nuclear power. I doubt that any would have even heard that before. Not one person dead, despite anti-nuclear activists at the time predicting up to 1 million dead. Joining me is Will Shackel, head of Australians for Nuclear, which has tried for years to get out the truth about nuclear power, to fight the lies. Will, great to see you again. What does the potential reopening of this giant plant, the biggest in the world, tell us?
Well, there's been a seismic shift on nuclear attitudes worldwide, whether it's here in Japan, where you have them moving on from Fukushima, taking the lessons learned to restart some of the reactors at the biggest nuclear power plant worldwide, or even in the United States, restarting the 3 Mile Island, one of their reactors, in a deal with Microsoft to power their data centres. And the reason they're restarting is because the world realises that we need nuclear power in the mix to provide affordable energy and to meet this moment to power the rising electricity demand for future industries such as AI. So Australia is falling behind the rest of the world as they go to the depths of restarting old reactors to meet these needs.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the 3 Mile Island one because an accident there, again, that killed nobody, inspired that movie China Syndrome to spook the whole world into, oh, we've got to ban nuclear power, and now it's being reopened. Will, there was another reason I wanted to talk to you tonight. Now, as I said, activists back then were claiming the Fukushima reactor would kill thousands of people. I remember being then on the Channel 10's The Project and being yelled at by producers for saying we shouldn't be listening to extremists saying, people with 2 heads and all that. One Irish professor even said more than 1 million would die. In fact, it killed none. Now, this is the misinformation that your Australians for Nuclear was formed to fight. But what really got my goat last week was the extraordinarily hostile treatment you got from Greens and Labor members of Federal Parliament's Select Committee on Information Integrity on Climate Change and Energy. They treated you as a stooge of fossil fuels in the nuclear energy industry, as a liberal stooge, as a sinister influence of the last election campaign. I just want to give viewers a taste of that shameful pile-on. Here it is.
Peter Dutton, during the campaign, walked around telling anyone who would listen, platforming on a national stage, that the amount of waste from nuclear plants would fit into a Coke can. Why did you not use your platform and your own voice during the campaign to refute that information that Peter Dutton was propagating?
Well, it's a well-known fact that the amount of fuel needed to power someone completely over their lifetime with nuclear power is the size of a Coke can.
But that's not what Peter Dutton said, Will.
But I only believe that he said that on one occasion. Now, you obviously have to go through my social media records. I would have hoped that I would have responded to that.
Did anyone from the Liberal Party, with your indulgence, Chair, advise you against correcting Peter Dutton's record?
No,
publicly?
I'm not sure who you'd be implying would have that connection.
No, that's
to me
fine.
to be
I'm
able
just
to
asking
do
the
that,
question.
And then questions, are you being funded by this and that? And mate, what did you make of that treatment of you?
Look, it felt like a massive stitch-up and a waste of time. I was there to talk about one of the biggest disinformation campaigns we've ever seen, the over $3 million nuclear scare campaign, where there was lies like nuclear would cost $600 billion, be 3.7% of the grid, 3-eyed fish, all the rest of it, and I wasn't asked once. Instead, they seemed to not understand that a young person could take an informed and educated position on energy and climate policy in Australia. Australia is the only member of the G20 with a ban on nuclear power, and for them to, instead of asking me about my informed opinions on nuclear power, what experts think, and why I think this disinformation campaign we recently saw was so terrible for Australia's energy debate, they instead tried to, drill me down on and make all of these conspiracy theories about me and my organisation, Nuclear for Australia.
I found it extraordinary that a Labor senator of a party that lied about the cost of nuclear power again and again and again and again and again should nail you or try to nail you for allegedly not correcting one misspeak once by Peter Dutton. I mean, really. Now, to your point about nuclear power in Australia, can Australia keep affording to ban nuclear power?
Well, look, I would have loved if we'd built a nuclear reactor a decade ago, but the next best time is now. Australia's very well placed, especially with all the developments with the AUKUS nuclear submarine program. We're starting at a strong foundation, and we should start now to meet our current energy challenges, whether it's with rising power bills, rising electricity demand, and also the decarbonisation challenge.
Now, I don't want to create conniptions among the Greens and Labor senators that were demanding to know who your donors were. So, that would have, had you delivered the names, no doubt they'd be harassed at home, as you've been harassed at your home and at your father's home. How can people supporting your work, and you've got climate scientists, renowned climate scientists on your body, how can they donate?
People can visit our website at nuclearforaustralia.com to sign up or donate to support Nuclear for Australia's work. I'm incredibly grateful to the over 115,000 Australians who support our work to help educate Australians about nuclear power and help cut through some of this disinformation we've been seeing.
Well, let's hope this then makes that monstering of you last week backfire. Will Shackel, thank you so much indeed for your time.